ESADE MBA for the invitation. And then we are here to, of course, to share, and yes, to be, which actually I have to say that Josie chose the name of this small conference, sensibly outrageous, because it was going to be a worse title, believe me. Because some of the things we're going to question here, what's going on out there in regards to technology, what you hear and what it is really happening out there. Okay, just to give you a heads up, basically I work for business development and project management at Strive. We are an official Glass partner, not the Google Glass Explorer that you know from before, but the new, it's called the Google Glass Enterprise Edition. We have it right here. We'll pass it on later on, of course. Okay, and not only this device, but we work with other devices such as PO6, Epson Moverio, assisted reality. We'll explain the difference between some and the others. Okay, so basically, this first slide is just to tell you that I was at a presentation in Cambridge. Actually I landed 3 hours ago, basically, and there was a gentleman there speaking. He said that during his presentation, if there was a cell phone ringing or smartphone, it would be confiscated and sold to slavery. So, then you know what happened. A phone rang, and it was mine. So please, get your phones. Here's the hashtags. These are official hashtags, of course. And that, the team at X, for example, that is an official hashtag for what is now the new division of Google taking care of glass in this case, the team at X. Okay? So basically, how many of you have ever seen these films? All right, excellent. So as you know, it is it is a classic, and we'll see why. So there are two movie scenes in this film that are really key and clue to what we're going to talk about today. So basically, one of them is, of course, and we see Mrs. Robinson there, and then we say, well, Simon and Garfunkel. No, those are not the two words we're looking for. So one of them is seduction. But we're not going to talk about seduction today. We're going to talk about something else. So the other word in another key scene of the film is plastics. So the main character in this case is accompanied to the pool area, if you remember the film, and he is told what the future is going to be. It's going to look like, because there is a revolution coming, and it was plastics, right? Well, we came to find out that it was not plastics. So that was not the word they were looking for. That was the wrong word. And we know what the right word was, of course. Somebody saying hello and saying yes. Basically, the word was silicon, especially that the film is from the Bay Area in San Francisco. They didn't say silicon because 10 and 15 years before the filming of this movie, there were patents for semiconductors, and from that unknown company called Intel, some of you may have heard of, that they were talking about an incoming revolution and what was going to happen after that. So basically, what happens is that this area in Northern California, in this case, not only San Francisco, as a matter of fact, San Francisco is not in what is called Silicon Valley, but that area of the peninsula, South Bay, especially that area, is what is now conforms today Silicon Valley. And that's where we know the main technologies is the Vatican City of world technology. If we exclude Shenzhen, of course, in China, which is basically for hardware, indeed. Okay, so basically there is a main feature here. These names that you see on to your right, I'm sorry, these are venture capitalists. What happens here is that there is a road. If you have been to the valley, especially from Palo Alto all the way to Menlo Park in Atherton, there is a road there called Sand Hill Road, and Sand Hill Road accumulates this, and while the list would not fit, basically, this amount of companies dedicated to venture capitalism when it comes to investing in high tech. needless to say, there is enough money to equal the Netherlands gross domestic product, basically. So basically, you're talking about a piece of land that will be a member of the G20. Forget about the rest of California. That will be a member of the G20. So basically, we have then Sand Hill Road, and then Sand Hill Road is born especially in the 90s with a dot-com boom that we call. All right. So basically, you know about dot-com boom, of course, because most of the people are my age and they are English. I'm not English. So Sand Hill Road and Wall Street, it became a counterweight for Wall Street because then the capital started going west in this case. And that really changed the way that especially you, as MBAs, future MBAs, need to take care of this, virtually a new world, all right, in which you can see this, there are 10 years between one and the other, and the only venture capital company that is listed on to your right is Berkshire Hathaway, which is, of course, Warren Buffett, and we know how it has there's a switch and a swap almost from the east to the west of the United States, but with world implications. It's not only about the United States. So what comes after this, all right, is basically a revolution of different technologies. Sorry about that. That's supposed to be off. You see, we were talking about exactly that's what we were talking about there at the beginning. So basically, we have these technologies, these different technologies, in which we are going to be centering in that one there. Augmented reality, for example, the cloud, cybersecurity, and IoT, which is the Internet of Things. How many of you are familiar with these technologies in a certain way? Okay, very well. Very well. Who can tell me what augmented reality is? Please. Yes.
It's just layering digital over what you see in normal life. So like the Google Glass or HoloLens, you just have a screen that it's an overlay over what you see naturally.
Naturally.
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. We'll see about that. And of course, as everything else, technologies have cycled. This is started by Gartner. In this case, this is July 2017. Okay. And it shows augmented reality, and I'm very specific to augmented reality because that's what we're going to be talking about here, or not. Augmented reality is right down there. You can see the terminology that Gartner uses is quite colorful. The trial of disillusionment, the slope of enlightenment. Well, that's augmented reality, of course, and we need to differentiate, and we will see right at the end of this presentation what the differences are in terms of market, because you are the future CTOs, CEOs, CMOs, COOs. Well, the COOs are more the executioners, and the CEOs are more the searchers, per se. But you need to get a hold of this information because you know where you are. Especially also a virtual reality here, because virtual reality already has a place in healthcare. So basically, Gartner continues by saying, that was in 2016, they said, well, this is going to be the spending in IT in the year 2017. Guess what? It already blew that number. I mean, by half, basically. That number has been, it is not the end of 2017, and that number is already off the chart. All right? So it is much more, it's accelerating much more than it was previously thought. So our company, Stry in this case was born as Reuters. We used to have a different name. Any Star Wars fans here? Yes, well, I am a Star Wars fan there, but I have to say that, of course, Lucasfilm Limited came over all the way down to Murcia, where the engineering office is, and actually accused us of plagiarizing. So we have to change the name from Reuters to Stry. Yes, it is in the public domain, so I can talk about it. So we changed the name to Streaming Eye. It's a combination of words. Right now, Stry has an office in Murcia, has an office in Hong Kong, and very, very soon we're going to have an office in Silicon Valley, all right? And we are dedicated to, basically, creating, which we already have, creating the first ever full standalone application suite for wearables and HMDs. HMDs means smart glasses in this case, okay? So it is a company that's in Spain. So most people would be very surprised. Even, especially in Spain, they are very surprised that there is a company here doing this they did not know anything about. It happens. So basically, this is what we do. And we work with companies not only as Glass and Google in this case. Now it is not Google, it's X. We'll get to see that, of course. But these brands, these are the top brands in the market. There are differences here because some of these brands, most of them, are assisted reality. We'll get to see the difference. And there is one here that is augmented reality, and we'll see the differences. So basically, the company is very well known, especially in the Valley. We have been even lecturing at Stanford University, with which we have 2 healthcare projects, as Josie knows. Okay, and very well known, and the creators of First Evers, when it was time, when healthcare was the #1, it's not #1 sector right now for smart glasses, it's #3. But it used to be, 3-4 years ago, it used to be #1. Because the virtual reality back then, 4 years ago, was not functional maybe it's not functional yet, fully functional for healthcare, but it has a lot more applications now. Back then, it was assisted reality. So we all know examples of these smart glasses, and that's very important because basically that's most of the perception out there is that these are toys. And when you visit potential clients and when you hear these, smoke screen effect out there of companies pursuing venture capitalism, of course, and they have to say what they have to say, which is authentic, of course, but it is not real. And that is the problem of perception. So, for those of you who know Simon Sinek, we'll have to start by asking the question. Simon Sinek, of course, the golden circle. You all know about that one. All right, so why? Why would a company, at that time 9 people, at this time 19 people, why would a company dedicate themselves with the public perception as such? Why would we dedicate to that? Why? Because as Simon says, that sounds beautiful. Simon says that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And our market validation that took us 2 years, especially with Google Glass Explorer, took us to this point. What is it about this revolution? And how do people, we started looking at this phenomena as engineers and technicians and people involved in technology. We started looking at it from the other perspective. And most of the public out there, and even companies, think about HMDs or smart glasses in this case, in this sense. It is an expensive and inefficient commodity. That's all it is. And of course we have examples of things that should not happen, but they happen, and things that are not a use case or a pilot study, but a gimmick. It's not science, it's a gimmick. That's an example, with all due respect, of course, to Dr. Shafi Ahmed. It was an experiment, but still the perception of people is that this is basically a gimmick. They say cool and everything. So sensibly outrageous because we despise this concept. Disruption. Many of you have heard the term disruption when it comes to technology. For example, would you like to share what is it that what lures you into thinking that disruption is good or bad, for example?
Well, it differentiates you or your company from the others.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So it may be in a good way, it may be in a negative way.
All right. How many of you would identify the word disrupting with interfering? So here's the problem, that the notion of disruption as such is a credo in Silicon Valley. So what we did is we say no more, because you, on the other side, I come to you, you are a CEO, CTO, C-level executive, so I come to you with a solution. The first thing you say, if I say disrupt, mainly what the other person thinks is expensive, inefficient. And that is market validated already. So we stepped away from the notion of disruption and say, no, first of all, this. This is very important. Yes, gimmicks are fine, case studies are fine, let's get the photo, let's get the selfies, or let's go into the press and have these beautiful reports. But welcome to the real world, to things that are functional, to things that are not, and if they're going to be functional, that there is a plan and not just photos. So, instead of disruption, we thought of transition. Everybody's talking about the fourth industrial revolution out there. Industry 4.0 is a concept derived from German business, right? So we say we are specialists in Industry 3.0. 3.0 because we want, or what we intend to do, is to go out there to these huge companies or an SME and just help them make the transition, the transit from A to B to C to D. It's not only disruption that you come and then you say, well, from A I'm going to take you straight to F. That is expensive and inefficient. So how do we get it done? Second step of science, right? How do we get this done? Of course, a business model. And what we did, what we did is we put up a ladder, a building block, and a scaffold. Simple. Very simple. You give them a building block, a scaffold, and a ladder. The company takes care of, by itself or with us, takes care of going the extra mile, of building up on that block. A fully functional application suite, for example, it is already in the market. We even sell it online, not only to big corporations. It's 2,500 euros. Any SME can buy it, and it is functional in itself. You don't need any systems integration, and you don't need any of that. If you want to customize it, sure, that's another conversation. You want to have it integrated into your systems? Absolutely. We can go ahead and do that. But this is still functional 100%. And that's one of the things that is going to be pursued by you in this case. And how many of you, Jerry Maguire? Yes? Remember Jerry Maguire? He said, show me the money, yes? What is it that you are supposed to say? Well, when I said, show me the money, now I'm going to money you the show. Okay. I'm going to show you how much you're going to save and how much money you're going to save. Yes, of course, but how much are you going to learn? Because knowledge transfer from one generation to the other is very important and very expensive nowadays. So basically, this business model is so simple as to all the members of this ecosystem can work with each other and be one thing or two things or three things as it is happening. So here's the example, and this is the things that we are doing, and in Silicon Valley they cannot believe their eyes, basically. So what is it? That's the what. It is everything about big data. It is everything about these information generated by human action. There is a breach, there is a gap between all that information that can be digitally generated out there and the ones being received by the company or institution in this case. We need a transition, a transit, a vehicle in this case from A to B. That is the purpose of it. So, Stripe platform. The platform right now, it not only works as, for our own deployment, it works as what is called a PaaS. Okay, yes, platform as a service, software as a service. Okay, for third-party developers as well. So if they want to join the ecosystem, they can do that as well. It is a very simple process of signing a contract, just like that. And then what used to be Play Store before for example, for Glass Enterprise, for Glass Explorer, I'm sorry, what used to be before Play Store, which is no longer the case, now it is the partner's responsibility or the partner's decision to go ahead and move on and move forward with this. An idea as such. That is, I have to say that it has been very well received. So basically, that was our experience before. We're talking about the year 2013. There was a tricky story, I'm not going to say it here, on how Droiders at that time, Stry at this time, how we became qualified to be, especially at that time, we were the first company outside the United States in being certified for the Glass Explorer edition, the All edition. And we all know, how many of you are familiar with the term glass hole? No? Or the glass, yes, you are, okay. The Glass Explorer edition was, these are my words, not Google, please, but it was an experiment. Somebody had to do it. Somebody had to go into the market and test it out and seek something so important as of market validation. So Google went ahead and did that. And I don't agree with the comments that it was a big mistake. I don't think there was a mistake. That was the beginning of a whole industry. Edison did not invent the bulb. He invented the business model for the bulb. That's different. So other companies came on board and said, well, if they can do it, we can do it as well. So it was Google that started basically you can say a revolution or re-evolution when it comes to perceiving, when it comes to generating, when it comes to grasping data generated, of course, by human action as an HMD, a head-mounted device. So that's our experience, and our current experience is not Google now, it is X. Anybody familiar with X in this case? The moonshots. Okay, it is within Alphabet, for example. It is a division of Alphabet in this case that is not directly Google. That is in charge of moonshots, and moonshots, of course, we know are experimental projects or long-term plans. And this device, it is very strategic actually, the fact that we grabbed it from the merely commercial to convert it or to have it become a long-term project. That means something else is going to come up. Of course, we're not going to discuss that here today. Okay, so let's draw the line of what technology is what. All right? So there is a lot of confusion out there when people say, oh, augmented reality or virtual reality, which is, of course, as I was saying at the beginning, I was speaking with Josie, it is our fault, not the Polish fault, it is our fault, the companies, we're not explaining the differences between one thing and the other. For example, ourselves at Stry, we work on 95% assisted reality. Assisted reality is a term coined by Google in this case, in which, for example, this is a Google Glass Enterprise Edition. I am speaking with you, having eye contact, and still I have a processor right next to my eyes. A camera, okay? I have information also displayed inside. That could be procedures, an alert system. That could be streaming. That could be audio. That could be video. That could be logistics. That could be supply chain, aviation, you name it. So basically the device is going to do whatever you design it, or you design the software to do in the platform as well. So basically this is assisted reality because it is an assistant to your work, but you are still in charge of your own basically And then you have real contact with the real world, as we said before. Then we start taking the steps. Augmented reality, that's an ODGR7, what you're looking at, whereas your name is, I'm sorry?
Trent.
Trent.
Yeah.
Like Trent said, for example, is an overlay of information that is on a, say, a device between the real world and you. But here's the difference. The difference between AR and assisted reality, there is no abbreviation for assisted reality because most people think it is actually derived from augmented reality. I don't agree with that, of course. But the difference is that AR requires two things. It requires a digital twin, requires analytics, and it requires computer-aided dynamics, per se, what is called CAD. It needs to have a digital twin so that there is information coming in back and forth from the cloud, so there is always object recognition, and then you know what is happening, instead of assisted reality, which is basically directly in front of you and process in front of you. Then we go to VR, of course, we all know that one very well. And there is an exception, of course, as we see the exception back there, there is another exception for VR, and that is MR. This is called mixed reality. And mixed reality is basically a concept coined by Microsoft in this case, which is the sum of AR and VR. And it is exclusive to the HoloLens, that's HoloLens right there, to the HoloLens device. That is still out there, and it is in a pilot phase right now. If you ask me for basically my opinion on where things stand, I would tell you that the only functional of all these four technologies is assisted reality. Assisted reality is fully functional right now. It works, basically. For pilots, which is okay to have, in case studies, and for some, unfortunately, for gimmicks as well, then you have the rest of them, and AR is, as we saw with the Gartner curve, or the wave per se, as we saw with Gartner's, for example, AR is just about 1 year from mass adoption. So there is early adopters right now working with AR. And VR right now, it is very, very limited. VR, MR is very limited. For example, it is being used in healthcare. But you just have to see that still, why are you using the technology? If you are such a good surgeon and you put this on, how is that going to help you? Is it going to be a return? It is not only a return. I always, before some other places, it is ROI. Of course, we all know what ROI is, but I always include T, ROTI, return on time and investment. It is not a waste of time just to see how much time you're going to save, if you're going to save time, by using this technology in the healthcare field. And yes, that is outrageous. And that's okay to be outrageous. That's not a problem. And why? Because of these changes. And when you go out there, for example, to be your own boss, or your own technical boss, CTOs, COOs, for example, in operations, or CMOs, not chief medical officer, not marketing officer, all right? Then you're going to find this information valuable because, if we all remember, Marshall McLuhan, you're familiar with him, he says that the medium is the message. Well, we seem not to be living in those times anymore. We seem to be living in reverse right now, where the message is the medium. So basically, when you announce, your company announce that you are going to have a pilot study or a case study with such and such technology, the people are not going to look for the medium, but the message. And the message basically is not only about a strategy, as we all know. It's about value creation. And it's about adding value. What value are you going to add or create with these technologies being, being added or being carried out, for example, in your companies, in your institutions? Exactly the same thing. Andy Warhol, But we don't live in those times anymore. We live in a different time. And now we have the possibility of being anonymous for 15 minutes. Okay? If it is exactly the opposite as Andy Warhol indicated back in the days. So basically, these concepts, we were seeking for one word at the beginning, yes? Okay, so it's only two concepts now. This is basically the death of industrial secrecy. Okay, and the death of industrial secrecy as we know it at least. How are you going to deal with this in terms of the implementation of technology and this way of grasping or this way of transforming the data generated by human action into numbers? You have to do it into something. It needs to have a return. So, as we saw in the graduate at the beginning, so we all know now that the right word is silicon and that the two concepts are to be the right ones and where we need to stand. So, basically, thank you for your attention in terms of this presentation. I'd like to show you a video now. That is basically our first project ever done on a World Health Organization based checklist done on Google Glass. We'll see the one with for dentists, I'm sorry. So let me get out of here for a second. Come up here. We'll see this one first. And so basically what we did, yes? Oh yes, there was a meeting or something today. No secrets, no problem. So basically what we did with Avident in this case, which is in the public domain as you know, basically we, it was the border between assisted reality and augmented reality. This was on top of the video being shown. It was embedded basically. So we took the World Health Organization checklist as such, personalized it as the client wanted. All right, and this done basically. Okay. It is an insurance issue, and it is also an accountability issue that you're going to show as a physician, in this case as a surgeon, you're going to show that everything was done according to a procedure, and it is recorded. Somebody's scared of surgery. That's okay. I dislike dentists, but they are good people. All right. So basically, okay. So basically that's it. It's as simple as overlay that information, give it to them, record it, and then that is, okay. For example, as we have, we don't have the patient's name here, for example. These could be perfectly linked to a what is called a PPHI, which is an electronic health record.
This company is into the business of making the implants?
I'm sorry?
This organization that you are working for, they make the implants or they are the procedures? They are the doctors who do the procedure?
Right. In this case, we were given the information and then we did it ourselves.
No. Avinet, the organization.
Yes.
What do they do actually?
Oh, it's dental implantology.
So they make the implants?
They make the implants, yes. They are based here in Barcelona, as a matter of fact. This was recorded in Barcelona. And this one is also, by the way, your patient is not real. It's not real, so that's okay. All right. And this one was made with Professor Dr. Homero Rivas out of Stanford University. All right. Yeah. Something as simple as, and the information that it appears there is absolutely real. 74% in a country like the United States in this case, that relies on private insurance, of course the
Okay, glass. So
insurance
you're gonna
companies
take
are going to
your
say
checklist.
yes.
We're going to go ahead and do a timeout. Check. This patient's name is John Doe. Check. We're going to be doing a laparoscopic cholecystectomy. Check. The patient is in a supine position. Check. This is the correct operative side. Check. Consent is signed and present in the operating room. It has been signed by the patient and by myself. Check. The site does not need to be marked in this case and is visible. Check. This patient received 2 grams of ANSEM given in the waiting room at 10:45. Check. He also got 5,000 units of sulforaphane in the waiting room, and he has SCDs that are on and running in both lower extremities. Check. This patient has no non-drug allergies. Check. This procedure should take about 45 minutes to an hour. Check. The estimated blood loss is less than 20 cc's. Check. There is no need for blood products. Check. We have the cholangiogram C-arm ready. Check. There is no need for implants. Check. No need for other special equipment. Check. And we really have no unexpected or critical steps. Check. This patient concerns that he's HIV positive. Check. We all agree to proceed with the surgery. Check. My name is Homero Rivas, and I'm the surgeon. Check.
Okay, so this is the example. So what is this going to do? Is it just a beautiful, cool thing to have just to display? This is what doctors call a dictation, and basically surgeons in this case. So every time they have a surgery, after the surgery, they have to go on dictation, and there is exactly what Dr. Rivas did. And how long does that take? That may take about 2 hours. Do you know how much a doctor makes per hour, or that charges per hour?
Thousands.
Thousands. It could be thousands, depending on the physician in this case. So basically, you just did it on the spot. That is recorded, and it is linked to the electronic health record, for example. Done. No dictation needed. Doctor goes to maybe another surgery or home or it's private consultation, something as simple as that. But these are practical examples for and to the real world. It was not real as you can see. Good for you. All right. So basically, that's what we do. That has been our experience with Google Glass, the Explorer Edition, now the Enterprise Edition, much more capable, of course, much better device, and with the other devices as well, also going into industries such as logistics, supply chain, aeronautics, even the military. Okay. Please, questions, sir.
So I assume that this, let's call it a checklist, is being is recording the voice, so whenever he says check and the specific word,
Yes,
he's getting checks.
that is correct.
What about how do you put I call it slides, right? How do you put the right slides in the glass? Do you have to connect to the computer, or do you have buttons on the glass?
It is preloaded. For example, well, this is Glass Enterprise, of course, and it works in a particular way. It works either by voice activation or by swiping forward, backward, down, in this case. But this information is preloaded on the platform. You feed it to the smart glasses, run it. And you always have it. So basically, all you do, for example, in this specific case, all you do is go into the patient's file. John Doe is going to have, well, let's pull out the procedure for such and such and such operation. Okay? So the doctor does the dictation right on the spot. Doesn't have to wait. This is pre-surgery, of course, and there is another one that is post-surgery. So that stays with the electronic health record in this case. And if there are any questions on, for example, something as expensive and dangerous for the patients, of course, as malpractice, for example, or negligence or anything of the sort, here's the evidence. Did the doctor make a mistake or not? It is recorded. So Simple as that, yes.
I have a couple of questions. First, I'm wondering what kind of ongoing relationship do you have with these clients after you implement the technologies? So, like,
Yes.
if they have an issue with it later on.
Yes, of course. The way we work is that we sell, when I say license, we're talking about a full solution of hardware software platform, full and fully functional solution. So that's a license that is yours forever. After year 2, then there's a maintenance fee per license or per device per user, we say. So we have the relationship the client wants to have with us. We do not force them to, because of, unless they want systems integration, that we're going to be the ones doing the maintenance forever or until they adopt another platform, right? So we let them decide, do you want to stay around, to stick around, or we just give you the upgrades and updates every year? That's it. Very simple. Yes, sir.
Is every solution kind of highly customized to the individual client, or are there other services that you're offering through here that are more generalized that kind of one size fits all? That's all.
Yeah, as I said before, the scaffold and the ladder and the building block. Then the client, in this case, basically digitizes its workflow. So we give them the tools, they do it themselves, or we do it for them. So it is very specific for the use of their license, but it is a building block common to all the clients, basically, unless there is, of course, customization, systems integration. So, yes, sir.
I have a question about the future, where this is going. Do you believe that this will end up as like an app store where thousands of people will start developing things where people can just use generally instead of going to a specific company for that amount of customization that they need? Or it will end up something like phone apps, where everyone's developing apps for the
Exactly.
lab?
Well, the answer is yes, and if I may add, we intend to do that.
So you won't, okay.
Yeah, we are doing that. We intend to do that, of course. Why? Because there is no one out there doing it. It's a blue ocean out there. Yes,
Look
ma'am.
at the
Yes.
What do you foresee as some of your like biggest challenges then in the coming like couple of years?
The challenges here, and anybody from the industry per se will tell you exactly the same. The challenge is hardware. The hardware is the challenge right now. Software, basically, that's the beauty of hardware, of software, I'm sorry, that you solve the problem. But hardware does not depend on us. It depends on outside companies. So basically, we are a reseller. We take the hardware, we make it work in certain ways. We make a whole package, we sell it.
But what's the limitation with the hardware? Like, and you mean hardware is what Google or X
Yes,
would be providing?
the devices itself. For example, let me give you an example. Google Glass Explorer was very limited. I would use the word limited when it comes to battery life, for example. Google Glass Enterprise, it is much better. Now, can we get the job done much better? Yes, we could. There are other devices out there that they're superior in terms of battery life and resolution, of course. So people, when people need the streaming, for example, they are looking for HD. Well, this device is not HD, for example. So why are we hardware, what is called hardware agnostic? It's because when we go to a client, we come to you, for example, we say, what's the use case? What is the use what is the necessity that you need to cover, basically? This is it. So depending on the environment and depending on the conditions, we're going to tell you the device is this one or this one. But we are not going to offer a device that is not going to get the job done.
Okay, thank you, Frank.
Thank
and
you.
thank you
Thank
guys
you very
for being
much.
here. And if you have further questions for Frank, we would like to connect you. So I will give you, yes.
Yeah, I have cards here.
So I will
I
have
have a bunch of them. Go ahead.
Thank you.
So I will have pizza myself now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Which one do you want?